Welcome, everyone, to Stories of Esses. This is season
2. Welcome back.
Yeah. We took a bit of a break. We had a lot of great projects happening and a lot of traveling. But now we're back to bring you some incredible content for Stories of Esses and maybe a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
We have some pretty cool news on our end. We will probably share this in a future episode, but there's a big event for us happening in less than 2 months, and we're really excited for it. So stay tuned. If you know, and if you don't know, well, stay tuned and you'll find out. Stories of Esses is here to bring you stories about fearless women, goddess, enchantress, princess, all the fearless Esses. And this is your go-to channel for captivating tales and thought-provoking discussions between myself and
Dania, the co-host.
The co-host. In today's podcast, we are going to delve into the mesmerizing story of Lillian Gilbreth. And taking lead this week, starting season 2 strong, is your co-host, Daniel.
Hey guys. All right. Welcome to today's episode. It's time for another exciting session. Okay. You will love this topic. We will be discussing Lillian Evelyn Gilbreth, a fascinating figure in industrial engineering and psychology. Credits to Gaby for picking today's subject, though.
Ooh.
As Gaby chose Lillian Gilbreth, I'm confident she knows a lot about her. So Gaby, share with us what you know about Lillian Gilbreth.
Actually, I don't know a lot about her life, but what I do know is that the super iconic movie Cheaper by the Dozen with Steve Martin is basically a little look into what the motherhood side of Lillian Gilbreth's life.
Yes, you're right. And it's also combining her efficiency and consulting approach for management and industrial manufacturing to her personal life, because she has been a single mom with 12 kids. Mm-hmm. So yay. It's
yay.
Cheaper by the dozen. I don't know if you said keeper by the dozen, but it sounded like keeper.
Cheaper. Cheaper.
Yes, you're right. And there's actually been, I think there's another movie that came out, I don't know when. It's
Cheaper
also
by the dozen too.
All right, then let's have a look into her life. So her maiden name is Lillian Evelyn Moller, and she was born May 24th, 1878 in Oakland, California. So she's already pretty old. She was the eldest of 9 siblings, though the firstborn died at just 4 months old. Lillian excelled in high school, and after persuading her father to let her attend college, she was admitted to the University of California. She majored in English while also studying philosophy and psychology. She was a diligent student, balancing her studies with household chores and helping her siblings. After graduating, she was determined to pursue a professional career. And for that, where do you move? New York City! Okay,
it's been waiting for you.
It has been waiting for Lillian, really. So, she moved to New York and enrolled at Columbia University to earn a degree in literature. Unfortunately, she fell ill and had to return to California in 1901.
From East Coast to West Coast.
Gotta go back. Like Monopoly. Go back.
Collect
go back
200.
To start. And do not collect the tax.
Don't collect yet.
So in California, she completed her master's degree in 1902. And then shortly after, she started her PhD, but took some time to travel Europe, where she met her future husband, Frank Bunker Gilbreth. They relocated to New York, and in 1911, she completed her degree, though it was not awarded due to residency requirements. So bureaucracy was already real 110 years ago, guys. Be careful. Get your paperwork straight. We are going through the process now.
Yeah.
She then enrolled for her PhD at the University of California, and her dissertation, The Psychology of Management, The Function of the Mind in Determining, Teaching, and Installing Methods of Least Waste was published in 1914, and she ultimately earned her PhD in applied psychology from Brown University in 1915. And the dissertation that we just mentioned was actually one of those first books that is combining psychology approaches on a management level. And
wow, I hadn't realized, because I mean, right now, like if you go to like a Barnes and Noble, right, you have so many like development books that talk about the psychology of development, how to lead your team using psychology, how to lead your customer, or like whether you're, you know, in our case, since we do a lot of marketing like B2B or B2C, the psychology for all of that. That's so interesting to know that her dissertation was one of the very first to really recognize that psychology is super important, and not only in, you know, your everyday mental health, but also in the aspect of working.
Yeah. And I think because I mean, we have to put it in context, right? So it has been over 100 years ago that it was published. So think about the idea and the definition of psychology also in a little different way than it would be nowadays, right? So it is more tailored towards, okay, what are the best management practices on a company to keep employees happy, but it can also be very physical because there's like this connection of physical activity at work because it was industrialism. So people were not just sitting in front of a screen.
Right. So it was a lot of like hard
And
labor,
it was
manual labor.
Manual labor, right? And the idea was, okay, how can I implement practices of the least waste? And waste does not necessarily mean throwing things out, but also waste in terms of movements for the employees to have
limit like turnover.
Yes, to limit turnover and to limit fatigue, especially.
That's really interesting.
Because those people, they had to work in line for 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever their shift model was, right?
Right. And I want to take a second, in case you are listening and you don't know what these terms mean. I just realized that we use a lot of like corporate jargon.
Which ones? I don't even realize it.
Right. Like B2B. So that's business to business, right? So if you're, you know, selling something to a business and you are a business, and B2C means business to customer. So that means that you are a business and you're selling to a person that's coming in off the street that is not a business but is an actual person. And turnover typically means you can't keep people on for very long, right? There's a lot of people quitting and getting hired, right? People are coming in and out in the hiring process a lot more. So if you have a place that has a lot of turnover, that means that they don't have a lot of employees that have been there for a really long time. And if you have a place that has little turnover, that means that a lot of the employees have been there for several years, and they're happy living there or working there.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that, because sometimes I think that like when I hear it on podcasts and I'm like, what does that mean? I think it's important to maybe share that with our listeners, because we're so used to hearing it that we are like, well, yeah, that blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I agree. Because we don't know where you guys are from. Our domain, I mean, we are both working in corporate jobs, so we know what it means, but we want to keep you entertained here.
And educated,
absolutely.
So let's keep going.
Okay, let's keep going. So Lillian's career and personal life were really remarkable. She and Frank had 12 children. That's why it's cheaper by the dozen. Though one died young, but however, she still managed such a large household, and it was undoubtedly chaotic. But it also meant there was always someone around. Sadly, Frank passed away from a heart attack in June 1924. So they haven't been together for a long time, but they had a bunch of kids. Lillian was an expert in psychology, scientific management, and engineering. Her work often reflected her roles as a wife and mother, applying her studies to household tasks. She focused on research, writing, and consulting, particularly in the context of American industrialization, where efficiency became crucial. So that's so funny, right? She was using all of her personal experience and her theories and kind of rolled them out at home with all of her kids to see what would work best and how to split up chores, really applying her own theories
because,
in her own business at home.
But I think that's super smart because, you know, being at home, and I think this will resonate with a lot of moms, majority of moms, and a lot of dads as well who are stay-at-home parents, that working at home is an unpaid job. It is unpaid labor, and it's really hard. And I thought about that not too long ago because I was having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about how, you know, it was unfair for people who don't have kids to kind of stay home, like stay at work while the other person gets to go home, and because they have kids. And I was thinking, well, that's not true because raising kids is so hard, you know, that you don't really get a break. It's not like you work is the hardest part of your day. It's like work is the easiest part of your day. And then going home and, you know, cleaning, taking care of the kids, splitting up the chores, not just between the kids, but like between you and your partner, if you have one. And if you're by yourself, then that makes it also really hard. And there's a lot of cool psychology hacks that come from parenting that people are now using at their jobs. Like they call like gentle parenting your boss or gentle parenting your coworkers.
I haven't seen those yet.
Yeah. And it's basically like giving them options. It's like, okay, do you want me to do this task now, or would you want me to do this task later? Right. And then like the boss or the coworker or colleague picks which one they want to do.
Okay. So it's just like setting priorities.
Right. But that's like what gentle parenting is, right? So like as a parent, typically in the past, you're like, well, you're going to do this. And gentle parenting, like the psychology hack is, okay, like, well, do you want to get ready now, or do you want to get ready in 5 minutes? And then they're like, oh, okay, I want to get ready in 5 minutes. You're like, okay, well then in 5 minutes I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you that we have to get ready, and so on and so forth. And people are doing it in corporate environments as well. So I think that that's super cool that she had this ability to try out her industrial methods or her parenting methods to work, which she didn't. It wasn't like today where a lot of it is, you know, cloud based or computer based. Back then it was a lot of manual labor.
It was just manual chores all over the place. Yep. And same at home as in the business, right?
Right.
Because, I mean, in nowadays society where we are living, except for if you're a blue collar worker and you're standing somewhere in a manufacturing plant and
like
you're handling things, most people nowadays do have white collar jobs, even though they might not dress white collar anymore, but there's no physical labor involved into doing something and creating something, right? It's not what you get measured for success. Most of this business, like hardworking business, gets sourced to different places with lower labor costs, keep corporate profits high, baby.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's keep going.
Yes, let's keep going. The Gilbreths were equal partners. They incorporated and focused on engineering and management consulting and had their own company called Gilbreths. Pretty easy, right? They specialized in time and motion studies, integrating psychology, ergonomics, and workflow optimization. They even patented a motion notation system called Therplix, defining the elemental motions in workplace tasks. And Therplix is Gilbreth backwards. So they were very creative, engineering type of nerdy funny.
What would be our backwards name?
I don't know.
It would be Namoin. Oh, that's cool.
Okay, you keep that in mind.
Corporation. Namoin Corporation.
we gotta figure that out. Okay, guys, if you have any suggestions for a company, because we will form one. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So if you guys ever want to look up the Therplix table, it's really interesting where they are just defining basic movements of your hands, of your body, and whatever is involved, right? And if you think about that and apply it to a workspace where they would do some consulting, that would mean to see and observe the workers and then have a look at their overall ergonomic situation and see how can you arrange things around them in a better ergonomic way, maybe closer, maybe further away, to give them exactly the room they need to work in
Mm-hmm.
in the fastest and least possible effort way. That was the idea, right?
Yeah.
To not hire the workers too much, keep them happy, low load for them, low fatigue. Really interesting. So have a look into it. It's really cool, and it's really hard to relate nowadays because we rarely see it, right?
Right, but that's not true because we think about it in the human factors of like a website. So, how do we make a website the most efficient or the most reachable or the most best functionality for a person, right? I mean, you see it in the standard of websites, right? If you go to Zara.com or if you go to Target.com or if you go to ChatGPT.com, really, really what you're seeing is like the same structure, right? So, where's your home button? Where's your settings? Even if you go to a different website, you're going to know as a user exactly where to go because of those human factors, right? So, like if you're looking at your Google Chrome browser, right, you're probably going to see the to close your tabs on the right hand side to close your browser, right? And then if you go to Apple, right, like the Safari, right, it's going to be on your left hand side. Either way, it's not that hard for your brain to readjust because it's basically the same but different.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can apply a lot of those things, and it's more about, let's call it like training and application of things, and then finding like the best possible arrangement for the best possible customer experience, right?
Right.
And you can basically apply that for what Frank and Lillian were doing. I mean, of course, this was in a manufacturing context, but it's applying in the same type of experience nowadays for if you would reflect it as a consumer, how do I want to arrange functionalities in an app, on a website, or wherever to always have a familiarity without ever having a customer or the same customer on your website before, right?
Right, because it might be, it can be very frustrating it can be really frustrating not only for the customer, but also for the person that's working at that company, right? Like, how do I edit this? How do I change this? What do our customers know from other websites, right? If it's happened to you probably, where you go to a website that is completely done so randomly and you can't find anything and it gets so frustrating that you just give up. And it might be that website has an incredible product, that company has an incredible reputation, but if their website is not up to, let's say, that standard of what we're used to seeing all the time, it can be really frustrating, and you might lose a customer or you might lose an employee.
Agreed. And doesn't even have to be a website, can also be thinking, because I'm working in the automotive industry. I have colleagues and they are saying, look, I'm not going to change the brand of a car that I have right now. So let's say they are owning or leasing a BMW. They're saying, yeah, you know what? My next company car is going to be a BMW too, because I like their interface of the navigation system, of the infotainment system. I like the little thing that you can turn on the middle console. I don't like how VW does it, or I don't like how Cadillac does it. I don't like how whoever else does it, right? So it's like you get used to it,
Right,
and there's
it's
also
comfort.
It's comfort, and there's also a certain threshold, let's say, or a barrier to jump over first, to rewire your brain basically to use something else or to use a different functionality, right? Okay, we got a little sidetracked here, but very good discussion. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I really love it, because the product, if it's a good product and it has great functionality, but it is not designed for the consumer to
It's not consumer friendly.
use it in the best possible way, right?
Right.
It's not going to work out.
Like when you have a board game that has like a million rules and takes an hour and a half to set up. We are speaking from experience here. It gets really frustrating. And then also on the other hand, right, we are talking right now currently like consumer facing, but now when someone is working at the company, which is what Lillian was really focusing on, right, is what can your employees explain the product? Can your employees explain how it's supposed to work? Because if you can't explain it, why are you selling it?
Yes, that's very true.
Right? If you can't work it as someone who knows the ins and outs, right? How can you make it available to someone who doesn't work with the product? And I think that's really cool that Lillian's work was about people who are working find their best optimal way of working.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also going to increase their, happiness with the company. Yeah. It's going to also increase the ability for them to be a good word of mouth to the consumer or somebody who doesn't work for that company, right? It comes hand in hand. So you were saying.
Yes. We were saying, so Lillian and Frank were basically obsessed with improving efficiency and reducing work steps while considering workers' physiology. For example, let's take an easy example, right? Everyone knows Starbucks. Everyone has been to Starbucks. If you have not been to Starbucks, you're not a real American. I'm sorry. Hate to break it to you. Okay, think about Starbucks barista. I looked it up and I was shocked. There are more than 170,000 possible drink combinations. If you go into a Starbucks store, just the sheer amount of tea, coffee, topping, syrups, whatever it is that you can add, it ends up with a crazy amount of combinations, right? And what the Gilbreths would do if they would have been alive now to optimize Starbucks is basically think about the different tools, like a blender, like the coffee machine, like the syrups, the whipped cream, and where to arrange it in the Starbucks in the best possible way, depending on the customer choices of the drinks, and to minimize the time and the effort for the barista to make the drinks. So think about it that way, right? I think that's like a very plastic example everyone can relate to.
Did you say plastic example?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Is that not a saying in the US? Or in English?
No.
Like it's like...
What's it in German?
Plastisch.
No, but I don't know what that means.
It's like a graspable example that everyone can relate to, right?
Gotcha. Wow, that's really cool. We learned some
I'm trying
German
to educate you guys.
But I think that's really cool with the whole Starbucks example because it's true. Also, don't have a lot of space in a Starbucks. If you guys have ever been to one, it's not known for the barista area to be big, right? The barista area, it could be long, but it's actually very narrow. And they're turning around all the time, right? Like going to the espresso machine, frothing the milk, then putting the syrups and blending it, or adding ice and all this stuff. And then also cleanup is a big thing, right? So if they're making, on an average morning, like hundreds of drinks, you also have to clean everything immediately. Like it's not like you can put everything in the dishwasher, wait an hour and a half, and then use everything again, right? You have to be cleaning as you go. So it's not just like making the drinks, but then cleaning to reset for the next order and so on and so forth.
So let's keep going, but I think it's just like such a cool example, right? So if you think about it, how much it actually takes of brain power to optimize a store and to optimize the product and make it the best customer experience, right? Because that's what it is about at the end.
Yeah.
Have a worker that's happy doing their job and you get a product as soon as possible for the least possible price. It's just amazing. Thinking about it from a business perspective. Lillian also focused on domestic management and home economics, and she used her children to analyze household tasks. She created efficiencies at home that could free women to seek employment outside the home.
Yeah.
One of her famous concepts is the modern kitchen work triangle. Unveiled in 1929. She also invented the foot pedal trash can and added refrigerator door shelves for better organization. So that's basically the shelves that are inside of the door where you can put your eggs, your butter, some drinks or whatever else. So things that you would take for granted nowadays.
Thank you, Lillian.
Trash cans and opening them with the foot was not a thing before Lillian Gilbreth, or her influences are still everywhere. And you can see how long this stuff
has lived, right? Like it's stood the test of time for sure. I mean, we have 2 trash cans that you have to use like the foot pedal for, right? We also have what was the other thing?
The refrigerator door.
Door.
I think everyone has that, right? Except with a mini fridge.
But you don't even think about it. No, there are a bunch of mini fridges who do have those shelves.
Oh, okay.
It like has a lot of space optimization.
Yep.
Very cool.
Oh, yeah. So really interesting. In 1930, she worked with Johnson & Johnson and other big names like Macy's. She also engaged in volunteer work and government service, advising on labor issues during World War II and holding numerous positions, including on the Girl Scouts board. So, Lillian's life was a series of personal and professional achievements. She and Frank's family life and work were chronicled in the books Cheaper by the Dozen and Bells on Their Toes. That's the one that I was talking about, not Cheaper by the Dozens too. Both of which were adapted into popular films. Lillian was a trailblazer, one of the most celebrated women and engineers of the 20th century. Her life is a testament to the power of determination and support. Born in 1878 and passing away in 1972, so all that management consulting experience must have kept her young, she experienced and helped shape significant societal and technological changes. To sum it up, Lillian believed in valuing and not wasting human work, especially women's work. Her life and career are truly inspiring. Gaby, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say how incredibly impressed I am by just the sheer amount of impact that Lillian has had in our day-to-day lives that we don't even know about, right? Like, we don't even think about her in our day-to-day because we're just so used to these things, these incredible inventions that just make our life easier. And now, like, hearing about this, I'm just like so impressed that, you know, these things lived in someone's brain. These things came out of, you know, someone's heart, for helping people. And I think that, you know, mothers really truly understand the power of making every bit of time count. You have to be a mother. I mean, you don't have to be, but she was working as someone who was a mother and an engineer and an inventor, and she just made it work so that she could use her time wisely, because you really do only live once. So I'm really thankful for Lillian, and I'm so happy that you presented her life in our very first episode of season 2. What a great way to start. I'm just really happy.
Oh yeah, it's great. It is a great story and she's been doing amazing things. I did not yet read her books, but they are on our list. We have a long list of books.
We have a very long TBR list.
But yeah, there's also one more funny thing that I want to mention. So when she and Frank did the time motion studies, what they would do is they would kind of add lights onto the hands or feet or wherever else of the worker and then let them do their tasks, right? And they would use a picture, or they would basically take pictures or have like a long time to take the picture so that you could see where the hands, basically the lights, or your
Right, like
upper body or your head, like where the area of movements is. And they would analyze that to see if there's potential to reduce
all of that
waste, or movements, and to minimize them as well as possible. So there are some cool pictures out there online, which you definitely have to check out. It's like taking a picture and someone has like a light bulb or like a flashlight,
so they'll be on our
and it's
Instagram.
like saying something. Yeah, they will be.
Perfect. So we'll be able to share
out.
those out. I think that's super cool, right? Like a heat map almost. Of like, seeing where the most activity is and then trying to reduce it as much as possible.
Yep.
Wow. Well, babe, thank you so much for presenting.
It was a pleasure. And that's it for today's podcast. Thank you all for listening. We are excited to kick off season 2 with this episode.
If you have any suggestions or inquiries, you can contact us at info@storiesofesses.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest.
Let's go.
If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and rate us with a 5-star review. And let us know how we did. If you are on Spotify, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and answer our Q&A and just let us know what you liked. And if you have a personal message for us, that's also great too. And if you want us to cover any stories that you think are worthy of being on Stories of Esses, please leave those there as well. Your feedback really helps us create better episodes, and it keeps this podcast going.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Have a good day.
I'm Gabby.
And I'm Daniel.
This is Stories of Esses.
Bye, guys.
Tschüss.